In this video, we will talk about materials in VRAY for 3ds Max. So we're going to talk about VRAY materials essentially, and we already saw sometimes during the other lessons that it's useful to know how to work with materials for many different reasons, not just for the materials itself, but also for other topics which are related. So when we need to work with the texture or we need to work with a global illumination as well, we need to know something about materials as well. So in the previous video, we finished the part concerning the lights and the various light effects that we can get. We saw how we can create a projector, so we can project a texture using a light. So sometimes, as I said, it's useful to know what a texture is, not only for material, but also for lighting and other reasons. And of course, we saw how we can study better the lights using materials, because we always need to work with V-Ray materials, V-Ray lights all together to get the best effect. So we used some of the light effects and also applied already some materials. And when we use Chaos Cosmos assets as well, we do have some V-Ray materials already set up for us. So we saw also how we can access the libraries to get the materials and the objects with the materials, but we're going to see how we can also customize and create our own materials using the various channels and parameters and values that we will find. So I will create a new scene here. I'm going to leave this scene where we concentrated on the different lights and different light effects. And we're going to move into a previous scene that we created, again, to study the basic of lights. But what I really want here is a small space, not too heavy, really simple space where I can test. So I need to have some lights. I need to have V-Ray set up, and it's already set up. And with the lights, I can study better the effect of the materials, because materials are actually responding to light. That's what basically all the different effects of the material are about. So physical materials, realistic materials respond to light. So you do need a scene which has some sort of light and some sort of light system inside. So I'm gonna get you to the Slate Material Editor. We saw that we have two types of material editor. We have the Slate Material Editor, which is a little bit more complex and it's based on nodes, and we're gonna see that later on. We're gonna start with something simple, which is the Compact Material Editor of 3D Studio Max. Of course, you can create materials for 3D Studio Max, standard physical materials, which are going to work for 3ds Max as well as for V-Ray, but it's better to create V-Ray materials because, again, we are working in a system where everything goes together. So V-Ray lights, V-Ray materials, and V-Ray render. So if we click on the button there, we can access the various libraries, the various types of material that we can open. And you can see there is an entire section dedicated to material. You can also click on this little sphere there if you want to open up the material editor. So material editor is where we can get our materials. Now I'm going to create some copies, and I'm going to try different effects and different types of material. I'm gonna explain to you what are the basics to understand how physical material works and how realistic material works, but especially how V-Ray material work. So I'm trying to move the target of this slide right here. So if it's difficult, I can access to the left panel of the outliner. Okay, so I want to have a strong light coming to illuminate my scene so that I can actually see what materials also are doing. So I'm quickly reorganizing here the lighting, getting rid of what I don't need. So, well, you need at least one light, one strong light, but you can create also a 3-point light system if you want. And also an object where you can apply your material. Again, I'm gonna open up the material editor from the V-Ray toolbar this time. And you can see this is now a physical material. So to change it, I can also click there, and it's gonna give me different types of V-Ray materials that you can find, but we are gonna use the standard. But you do also have more types of VRAY material. If you go there and on the toolbar, you can see you have air material, which are good for hairs, and other type which are um, dedicated to something in particular, like the subsurface scattering or well, other really specific type that you can see, but they all work the same. They do have the parameters there in the bottom part. Now in this case, subsurface scattering is a translucent material, but we're gonna get to that later. So I'm just gonna show you here that you have some options. You have the two-sided material, which is gonna have a material on one side and a material on the other side, so you can decide a front and a back material. So it's kind of a combination of two materials. And again, you have also this one here, which is the blend material. It's another type of material which can blend materials together. So these are kind of more advanced type of materials, but once you know the standard VRAY material, you can then manage to work with all the other types. So this one here is the standard VRAY material. So if I click and drag it, again, it works like 3ds Max. So you can click it and drag it. You can apply it using the editor there. Now, if you want another one, you can click on that little tag and navigate into the VRAY section of the material map browser and search for the VRAY material. And again, you also have some other option here. For example, you have car paint, which is for car paint. So it's kind of a more complex paint with flakes in it, and you can manage all the different effects using the various parameters that you will find. So each single material has its own parameters, but they all use the same basic things that we're gonna see. So we're gonna see the basics, which are gonna be helpful for all the other types of materials. Now in here you will find some simpler materials, some more complex materials. This one here is VRAY Toon, which is used for creating cartoon effect, cartoonish looking effect. And you also have a, for example here, something to create the light material, VRAY light material, and other stuff that you can also do with the standard material. So in a way, some of those are kind of simplifying your work. Okay, now I'm going to replace this material right here. Now you can see that the multi-sub object, it's a 3ds Max material, but you can use it also with VRAY materials. So you can combine also 3ds Max materials and VRAY materials. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of theory. So we said that material is just material look is just how a surface reacts to lighting. So this is where it's all happening here. So if the light bounce on the surface, you're gonna have two type of bounce. So diffuse means it's gonna not have a reflection and not have specularity. When you have a concentrated reflection, you're gonna have specularity. You're gonna have like mirror reflection. So the light can be scattered on the surface or get back to your eye in a concentrated beam, and this is gonna make the main difference between a diffuse or rough material and specular or glossy material, basically. And this is the first step. So when the light hits the surface of a material, so of an object. And you can also see there the different types of surfaces, but mainly you have glossy or rough surfaces, or diffuse surfaces, which is kind of a rough surface. You can see many examples here to have really a clear understanding of what we're talking about. Just search it in Google, you will find all the information. Now, when the light is passing through, so it goes